So a little overdue video for the folks who have asked me to play Chrono Trigger after my Final Fantasy IX video. I like one turn-based game and y'all suggesting me another one. Alright, I'm game. Let's see if Final Fantasy IX wasn't a fluke. So Chrono Trigger is set in the year 1000 AD. We play as Super Saiyan God Gohan, who has an ingenious friend I named Bulma that builds a time machine. Together, they travel through time and eventually arrive in the year 2300 AD, learning that civilization has been wiped out by an alien creature known as Lavos that appeared in 1999. So, this commences their epic quest to prevent the destruction of the world, coming across various other allies from different time periods along the way, such as Primeval Android 18. Okay, if anyone's wondering, these characters were designed by Akira Toriyama, the legend who created the greatest anime ever, so that's why Dragon Ball characters are in this game. Anyway, let's tackle the gameplay side of things first. If you've been following my channel for a little while, you know that I'm not too big on turn-based combat. Anyone's free to make a case on why turn-based combat's fun, but it is a fact that typically when it's not a boss battle, you just need to tap one button to win. Occasionally heal when you need to. For me, whether this is fun or not depends on my mood. To be real honest, my first session with this game was only about half an hour. I time traveled out of the fair to 600 AD, and during my first few encounters in Truce Canyon, I was rolling my eyes while spamming the X button. After a couple more battles in the Guardia Forest, I was like, okay, I'm not feeling this. I need to mentally prepare for what kind of game this is gonna be, and from there on, the combat was acceptable. Certain days I was having a good time, and there were others where I was like, this is kind of boring. But let's focus on the positive aspects because I did overall enjoy Chrono Trigger's combat. I think it does stand out from most other turn-based RPGs. The first thing is the lack of random encounters. In this game, you can see monsters as you're traversing the world, meaning that sometimes you can go around or past them if you don't feel like fighting. And if you do engage, the game doesn't fade to black. The menus just immediately pop in and the battle initiates in the world space. When I noticed this, I was like, turn-based games can do that? Since when? When did this game come out? 1995?
Eat shit.
What?
How's that?
Do not use that word in front of my son.
Eat shit.
If I
Eat
wasn't
shit.
practicing,
Eat shit.
I would slap that smug smile.
Definitely eat shit.
I know y'all are tired of me ranting about random encounters, but if this is possible for RPGs like this, then random encounters pretty much have no fundamental value. I used to think they were just annoying, but with the way turn-based combat functions, the game has to transition you into a battle arena. Apparently not though. I was astonished by the ability to run through caves and the world map without being interrupted every couple steps I take. It's amazing. Now, something I find unique within the combat system itself is the magic system. Each character in this game has their own skills that can be coordinated into one powerful attack. For example, with Chrono's Cyclone and Luca's Flamethrower, you can perform Fire Whirl, which would take up both their turns, but deals more damage. Just like the lack of random encounters, I don't understand why dual and triple text didn't become like a staple for RPGs. Different pairs of characters result in different combination of text, and with a total of 7 playable characters, it's fun to experiment with. Everything else involving combat is pretty run-of-the-mill. Like I said, my enjoyment fluctuates depending on my mood. However, regardless, I do find this game to be a bit too bloated with battles for my taste. Even on my better days, sometimes the game did manage to burn me out with a lot of battles. I think I prefer Final Fantasy IX's method of reducing the tedium by having random encounters but rarely having them occur, rather than no random encounters but still a lot of enemies in your path. This is partially made up for though, as the combat in Chrono Trigger is superior in itself in my opinion. Now, looking at Chrono Trigger beyond its combat, you got a well-executed and extraordinarily fun time-traveling adventure. The characters do things in one timeline, then see how it affects another, and that alone will always be fascinating, especially in a video game as you, the player, are committing these acts. I do wish there was a little more substance to the characters, however. This might be controversial as usual with me, but I didn't love the characters. I think they're serviceable at best, as very few of them demonstrate any emotional depth for the narrative to be as rich and grand as other stories in this subgenre. How the characters are written in Chrono Trigger doesn't allow its story to instigate a lot of drama or development throughout the adventure to get me fully invested. They just make up a band of heroes with distinct attributes. Like Marl is the fun, adventurous girl, Luca is the handy person who's mostly responsible for the creation of the time machine. To be fair, they do have a little more going on with them beneath their superficial qualities. For instance, the reason why Luca pursued science and inventing is because when she was a little kid, she helplessly witnessed her mother endure a machinery accident, not knowing how to shut off the device to prevent the incident. The thing is though, this isn't something you would have learned unless you tackle an optional side quest. In fact, every emotional closure for each character is experienced through side quests. I was debating on whether this is something I want to knock the game for or not. Isn't providing narrative exposition for the characters the point of side quests? I'm gonna say this is fine because the game does directly state that the side quests are meant to better prepare you to take on Lavos. I was unable to defeat it without completing them, but even so, from a storytelling perspective, most of the personal matters that each character deals with don't elevate the main plot. They're just nice touches to the characters. Not to mention our main boy Chrono has nothing going on with him besides being the noble but silent protagonist. The most compelling character in this game is a frog. Now, I'm gonna get into heavy story spoilers talking about Frog, which will pretty much be the rest of this video, so if you haven't played Chrono Trigger and are interested, go play it because it's a pretty good game. Okay, so Frog was originally a human named Glenn.
Back to it.
He reluctantly enlisted as a knight for the royal army, with his best friend Cyrus being a character that demonstrated extreme pacifism. This quality eventually made Glenn suffer severe repercussions, as one day, instead of fighting alongside Cyrus, he simply watched as Cyrus gets killed by the Fiend Lord Magnus. Even following the death of his best friend, he lacked the will to fight to avenge him. As a result, Magnus noted that Glenn was like a scared little frog with no pond to jump into, and instead of killing him as well, he decides to give him a quote-unquote more fitting form, transforming him into an actual frog. Glenn then lived in isolation, wallowing in guilt over this tragedy for 10 years, until deciding to join the other time-traveling heroes to save the world. And who does he come across again while on his journey? Magus. The game then eventually adds a little element of perspective. Although Magus is by no means a saint, the reason why he waged war against Guardia is because he was trying to gain more power to have a better chance at defeating Lavos. He came from a timeline where he faced Lavos and it destroyed his entire family. This is the kind of predicament that I wanted more of because it has substantial relevance to the main objective. Does Frog carry out his revenge, now having a second chance, or does he forgive and ally with the one who wronged him to take on a greater threat? Well, that is up for the player to decide because this game does occasionally allow you to make choices that result in various story outcomes. And since I brought this up, I want to note that quite early into the game, you're actually allowed to just travel to the year Lavos first appears to try to take it out, but obviously it's gonna demolish you on the first playthrough, and that's where New Game Plus comes in. Subsequent playthroughs, you maintain all your stats and equipment, and depending on when exactly you decide to kill Lavos during the story, different events will occur. As an example, if you defeat Lavos before Frog encounters Magus again, what's to stop him from getting his revenge? The creativity of this game is just on another level. Alternate story paths, a well-executed time travel narrative, a unique magic system, and no random encounters are all reasons why Chrono Trigger is an awesome JRPG. Sorry if this wasn't an all-positive review on Chrono Trigger, probably like any other video out there. To any of those who are mad, just know that I do think its reputation precedes it, just not without a few personal gripes. Also, if this is a widely beloved JRPG and even a clown like me likes it, then it's without a doubt fantastic to a degree. I'm definitely down for more games like this. Final Fantasy VI, that's gonna happen. Sometime after Final Fantasy 16 though. I'm gonna replenish myself with an action RPG, then I'll be ready to play something more relaxing again. Until then, take it easy.